Welcome to An Evening with John. This evening's seminar is on overcoming limitations. If you would like a complete list of John's seminars, either in taped or transcript form, you may write to the Free Will Foundation, 7210 Jordan Avenue, D23, Canoga Park, 91303, or you may call directly 818-340-0193. And now John speaking on overcoming limitations.
We would like to welcome you to our discussion this evening, which will concern overcoming limitations. Now, before one can overcome a limitation, one should be aware of just what a limitation is and what it means to one in their life. Now, many of you will look at your life and you will be able to find in that experience of life forms of limitation that you've experienced in your life. Now, many of you would be a little apprehensive, shall we say, as you began to view your life, in that we want to be a little bit cautious, you see, when we are discussing the limitations of our life. As a matter of fact, many times we don't want to admit on the surface that there is any. This doesn't apply to any of you, by the way. Know that you are ready to admit to yourself that your life is not working at all, maybe just slightly. Well, maybe just sometimes when you're really on it. One must be very careful to realize one's relationship to his world as he forms that relationship through his beliefs. Now, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, your entire reality flows along the lines of your beliefs. Now, you may be the type of individual who looks at life and sees it basically as a struggle, as an arena in which individuals seem to be constantly pitted against obstacles that are outside of themselves, presenting challenges to the individual themselves. Now, these challenges many times begin to assume the characteristics of limitations, because we tend to fall into the trap that we don't really spend the time to look at what our life is to us, what it means to the individual. Now, I know that many of you have health considerations, and oftentimes you will ask, well, what can I do about a particular health consideration? And at times we will tell you that our advice is such and such and such and such, and we want you to consume a certain type of herb. But you see, in reality, all your physical problems are brought on by you. And usually the cause of this problem is due to a limitation that you placed on yourself. One of the greatest limitations that people put on themselves is that they believe that they are their ideas of themselves. This is the first motivating cause of limitation, that you actually believe your thoughts about yourself. And the second act of limitation, which is something that you all do and can't help doing it, in spite of how many times you've been told not to, and that is an act of judging. As soon as you've established that something is either good or bad, either way, you have made a judgment. And in making this judgment, you have quality-wise affected your life, whether you realize it or you don't. Because these judgments that you make about your experience in reality is going to affect your reality. Now, one of the ways in which an individual can first begin to discover the types of what you would call decisions, and a decision, my friends, is nothing more than a judgment. You might trick yourself into believing that it's not, but it is. A decision is based on the fact that you have two, not necessarily opposing poles, but you have two different positions. And one must decide one from the other. Well, once you put yourself into that position of deciding, you're already trapped. Now, there's no one here in this room who's trapped, yes? In our last seminar, I believe it was, where we discussed about how your life basically is being run by a child. And that child whose beliefs were established back between the ages of 2 and 6, whereby the child began to make the most basic of associations between itself and other beings like it, and then thirdly, the reality in which these beings find themselves. A very good method to discover how you feel about particular decisions you've made in your life is to create what we will call our good and our bad list. Can everyone hear what I'm saying? Good. Now, to do this, it's quite simple. It requires that you sit down and you create a list. First, you'll start with all the bad things you think about yourself, because believe it or not, it's going to be easier for you to come up with the bad things than it is the good things. And I could pick out anyone in the audience and work with them and prove that point. That if I were to ask you, tell me one of the good things about your life, for instance, Aristotle. Pick anyone out in the audience. Someone raise your hand.
Someone raise your hand. Okay, right here.
All right, now, tell me, what good quality do you have about yourself? What else? And what else? Have we proved that point? You see, the mind gets a little confounded when it is confronted with this issue, you see? Because you have an ego. Now, without going into the ramifications of what that is, since we've done that already, within the framework of that ego, you live your life. Now, I want you to begin to take a look at how you're living your life. To take a look at just how you have structured your life. If you're having problems in it, it's because you've caused them. But you want to blame the outside circumstances because it's convenient so. Because if you don't blame the outside circumstances, then the buck has to stop at you. And you don't want to take that responsibility. It's easier to blame it on the weather, on your husband, or your wife, or most of all, here's a good one, the children. They're beautiful about it because, you see, they can't really argue back. They can't give you a good persuasive argument back. But you treat your thoughts in much the same way as you treat your children. You know what happens when a child comes up to you and he starts talking the truth and you don't want to hear it? What do? Shut up, kid. You don't see yourself doing the same thing to your mind, to yourself. When your mind starts communicating to you about you, such as perhaps you have a thought that comes into your mind that, well, you know, you're not really doing all you could do to make your wife happy, or vice versa, then what do? Well, I know that. And that's as far as it goes, my friend. You know that. That's good. Nothing ever gets done about it, but you know it. And you can look in your lives, and I think you'll find many, many examples of this type of action, you see, which is really non-action. It's being stuck where you are because you're afraid to make a step. It's as though you're afraid if you make that step, you're going to fall off the pier or fall off the end of your life. Now, so we create our list, and we start it with the good, with the bad things. Let us start with that. Now, you create this list. Think about all the areas of your life. All the areas of your life that you feel needs improving or affects you in a negative way. Now, you've got to be truthful with yourself when you're doing this process. After you've completed that list, and these lists will grow, by the way, my friends. They will grow. So don't be discouraged if when you sit down and you can initially only come up with, say, 5 or 6 items. Don't be discouraged, because you see, you're going to be up against tremendous resistance within your mind. Your ego is going to resist this process. Because although the ego can and will transcend itself, will grow and change according to your will, pardon us, according to your will, you must first give it the sensation that you really want to do something about it. Because you know, just like that little example we gave you earlier, your ego believes that's the way you want to handle it. And so that's the way it will handle it. It'll give you a lot of, I don't know. It'll give you a lot of, well, maybe. It'll give you just exactly what you give to the world in the same manner. So now we create our good list, those qualities about ourselves that are good. And now if we don't have these qualities that are good, you see, first of all, remember now, we've created our negative list, and then we've created our positive list, our good list and our bad list. Now also, there's another list we're going to create. It's called the list of things that we wish we could do or be. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create this list so that you can first see where you are polarized in your life, how you've set yourself up. Now, this is going to require you to actually be honest with yourself. You don't have to show the list to anyone else, because this will probably inhibit you. You see, this will be another form of limitation. Good grief, someone else might see my truth. If they see my truth, then my covers will be pulled. And then I will not be able to communicate with them in the same way that I used to. Because now they know. You see? They know the dark secrets now. They know what comprises me. But after they know all that, then what that leads to is them wanting to discover themselves. You know, there's one thing about enlightened people. People who are enlightened, you see, other people see that quality in them. And they instantly want to have it themselves. But the one who's enlightened knows that he had to simply choose this quality for himself, to actually create it himself in his reality. Whereas by you will look at that and want it to be created by someone else. You want someone to do it for you, as opposed to you doing something about it yourself. Now, you see, you have basic ideas that you've accepted unto yourself that have either very little or nothing to do with actual experience that you've had in your life, but have more to do with the structuring of your beliefs and how your ideas are filtered through those beliefs so as to manifest themselves in your version of reality, which is your life. But you will take that list and you will work with that list until you've completed, as you feel, as complete a list of your negatives and positives as is possible for you. Then what you will notice from that list, you will start to see core beliefs. They will be obvious to you as you go down your list about the things that you like or the things you don't like. You're also going to find in this list items that will surprise you, that you haven't thought about for years. But you're going to see them in this list And what I want you to do now is to go through that list and to pick out the 10 most important, or what you feel to be the 10 most critical items on both your good and your bad list. Then what we want you to do is to start concentrating on the good portion of your list, what you consider to be good. And start to affirm in your life these positive qualities about your life. Now, people have heard before about the use of affirmations and what affirmations can do for an individual. But you see, affirmations are totally worthless unless you do something about them. An affirmation is not just you saying something in your mind. An affirmation is you backing it up by doing something in the physical. In other words, do in the physical that which you wish to manifest. You've got to do it in the mind, but if you just do it in the mind and you don't do something in the physical that is going to collaborate that with the body, then the body is not going to get the message. You understand? Now, you have also locked within you what we will call core emotional beliefs that have to do with your basic separation from yourself. These ideas we'll be going into in much more detail in the last of the series, and how to recognize the self. But briefly, the self is what you are. Your personality is an offshoot of that self. It is an aspect of it. And you have the ability and you have the right to allow yourself to come to the surface of your life, to manifest that which you truly are in actuality. But before that can happen, my friends, then you've got to sweep away some of the mud, some of the quicksand that you find yourself in. Another area that you look into would be role-playing, because you all do it. You do this role-playing unwittingly so because you were taught to do it. You were taught from the time you were very young that people play roles. And the roles that they play depends upon their belief structure and just how much they're going to allow their magnificence to shine through in this reality, or how much of it they will not allow to come through in this reality. But you, as human beings, being in the experience of consciousness through the auspices of the ego, in experiencing your life, you simply need to realize that what is in your ego is what you put there. But you put some stuff there long ago and forgot you did it. So you need to remind yourself that you did do that. You've often probably heard of people talking about peace in the world. Yes? Well, don't you realize yet that there can't be peace in the world until there is peace in the individual? This is where peace is. It's not out there. It's not in the world. It's in the individual. And you know what peace is? Literally, the word peace. What does it mean? The root of the word comes to mean agreement. So if you're in agreement with something, you're going to have peace with it. You understand? Well, you're not in agreement with your reality, are you? Hello? Oh, good, good. I just wanted to be sure that what we were going to say was going to do some good, you know what I mean? Otherwise, if you're all so together, I make a joke. In many ways, I wish I wasn't making the joke, you see? But anyway, this is what it is all about, is it not? It's about discovery of oneself and about allowing the wonderful creative forces you have at your ability to come into your life, because you have them there. But you see, you're all like the little boy at the dam. He's got his finger in it. And he's afraid that if he lets it loose, the whole thing is going to come out. Well, so what? So what if it does? So what if you pull your finger out of the dike of your limitations, and all your limitations come tumbling down upon you, then one of the two things is going to happen. You're either going to get buried by them and stay that way, or you're going to start throwing off the bricks of your limitation one by one. And as you do so, you begin to get lighter and lighter in the process. And you begin to become easier to deal with. I'm speaking now of with yourself. Dealing with others will quite naturally unfold itself, because you'll realize that they too are you, and what you feel is what they feel. Although the contents may be different, the context is the same. That can't be changed, because it is within that context that you have your experience of life, of reality, of being, of limitation. In many ways, the body itself is a form of limitation. And you accepted this form of limitation when you decided to choose to come into this reality in the first place. You also decided to choose the limitation that you would pretend that you forgot, that you knew where you came from, and what your purpose in being here was for. How many times have you heard people say, I wish that I knew why I'm here? Why am I here, and why are these people doing all these nasty things to us? And you don't realize that those people are doing those things to you because you bring it on yourself. You're causing it. You are the cause of your experience, no one else. Don't blame God. He's not causing your individual experience. All that is gives you the stage, shall we say, in which to create your existence. But all of this also gives you the free will to do so. You have much in you, even to the point that you feel confused about your relationship to what you might assume to be a creator, whether or not you believe in one, or it in general, but that you also inhibit the will of the creator, so to speak, when you use your will to go counterproductive to the will of all that is, which is that you will love, and that you will discover yourself, and that eventually you will realize your relationship with all that is, and express that in the kingdom of heaven on earth, you see, or kingdom of nirvana on earth, however you choose to look at it. Limitations are like acne. You see? They break out all over the place. And they're just as damaging as acne, you see? Because you see, acne, when someone has acne, one of the first things they want to do is to hide their face, you see? They don't want anyone to see the reality of them, because they think it's bad. It's wrong. It's not acceptable. You understand? This is a limitation. The acne has nothing to do with their acceptability or their lack of it, except for within themselves. You see, they now believe they have become unworthy because of this. People who have physical impediments tend to view themselves as being unworthy. But the unworthiness comes from within themselves. It's created from that belief that they have, which is a limitation, saying they are not worthy to be healthy, or that they are not worthy to have a clean complexion. Or in the case of women and men, you are not worthy to have a giant body, or to have big muscles if you're a macho man, you know? Or if you're a woman, you know, to have big in the right places, so that you'll be physically attractive to men. But usually if you're a woman in that position, you attract all the men you don't want. You see? So you get sort of a reverse reaction to what you feel is the truth. You are all worthy of being here. You are all worthy of expressing your total magnificence in the world, if you're willing to. If you're willing to put away your inhibitions and put away your shortcomings, because they are an aspect of your limitation that you've adapted unto yourself, that you've come to recognize as the way that you are. And that is not so. It is the way that you believe you have to be that causes the problems. Your relationship with your parents, for instance. Let us look at it from the point of view that when you are younger, you notice that when you looked at your parents were like gods. My God, they could pick you up and move you around in the air. You remember how helpless that was? You would better be good or they might drop you. So all of a sudden you're looking at your parents, and of course your parents are always right. Why? Because they're so big. That's why. You develop what can be called, towards your parents, an infallibility complex. Your parents can't do no wrong. You understand what we're saying? Can anybody identify with that? Good. Now, as we grow older, you see, we come into adolescence. And then what happens is we start to see, wait a minute, this guy's underwear isn't always clean. How come that's so? He's no longer infallible. He's a human being. But because the child is coming from an infallible position to one of total fallibility, that now he begins to express that he loses trust in the older generation. Do you notice that about yourself? Can't trust anyone over 30. They're all dingoes. The reason the world is all messed up is because of those people that are over 30. All those people that when you were younger were infallible. And now they're so fallible it's incredible. The next thing you find out is that you're in that position. But are you fallible? These are all beliefs, my friends. And they're all beliefs that you've gathered up to yourself like a magnet gathers up pieces of metal. It draws it to it. And it keeps them on the magnet. Because this is the way that the nature works. Well, your beliefs and your thoughts in many ways can be looked at as though they are magnetic. And they attach themselves in groups. And these groups attach themselves to other groupings. Then you have what you call belief patterns that you accept as to be the fact, the truth, the way it is. And yet, you don't spend 10 seconds to look at that belief to see if it is real, to see if it's valid, to see if it's a piece of baggage that you can leave instead of carrying around on you all day long, every day of your life. And every time you deal with someone, you know, when you're dealing with people, we all carry around this baggage, you know, and it weighs us down. We wear it and we show it off. It's almost to say that people in the world are all running around saying, well, you think you got problems? Here, look at my problems. I got more problems than you got problems. And everybody's running around trying to say that their problems are worse than everyone else's, because you don't have the problems like I have my problems. My problems are more serious than your problems. Excuse us, please. Thomas is recovering from a cold. Aristotle, could we have a little water, please? Thank you, my friend. Where are we? Now, When people fail to review the contents of their conscious mind, then they really fail themselves. Because what you're doing in not reviewing your own thoughts about your beliefs is that you are blanketly accepting them as real. And you will allow them to run your life and to dictate to you exactly what you should and shouldn't do, how you should and shouldn't be, the people that you should and shouldn't be with, and just about every other item that you can think of. Health is a direct reaction that one has to their beliefs. If you are a healthy individual, then your beliefs about yourself are usually healthy beliefs. But because you perhaps are an individual who has some sickness, and that you find that your beliefs about yourself are in opposition to your reality, meaning that you are sick and yet you feel that you believe you are a healthy person, then what is happening is that your reality is showing you that your beliefs are not the truth. You see, reality is going to show you what your belief patterns are. That's the way it works. What you believe in is going to occur for you. And I know you're all sitting there saying, well, this may be true, Johnny boy, but how come, I believe I'm going to win the lottery and I don't win it? Well, how come I believe I know who's going to win the Kentucky Derby and I don't win it? Well, you see, you're falling prey to yourself there, my friend. You're running around yourself. You're running circles like a dog chasing its tail. Doesn't realize why it's doing it. And it only stops when it grabs it. Because it's reached the end of its exercise. That's what most of you are doing. To you, life is an exercise. You wake up in the morning, you do the same thing you've done for all the other thousands of mornings you've woken up. Usually you wake up in relatively the same mood atmosphere, with certain variations on occasions. But basically you wake up knowing that you're going to have to face the world that you don't want to face every day. And you do it in such a way as that you know that today will be a little different than yesterday. Today is going to be your day. Things are going to work right for you because they haven't worked right for you yet. So it's about time. You might get lucky, huh? God's going to finally send you down a little bit of grace, some blessings, and then your life is going to change for you. Well, my friends, God's within you, so if you want him to send anything down, just look sideways. You don't have to be limited, my friends, in any aspects or form. But if you are, and we know that you are, you do not have to choose to stay that way. You can make a choice, but you must make the choice now. You see, if you wish to change your life or work with your life, you must do it in the only moment you have. And that moment is now. You see, one of the laws is that the present is the point of power. It is the only point in which you can do anything. Everything else is either an idea of what is to come or a recollection of what has passed. The only truly creative moment you have is called now. And you're all existing in that now. But very few of you know how to use it to your advantage. Use it to teach you how to grow within yourself by using the natural tools that you have at your disposal. The first is your consciousness, your thoughts about yourself. And that little process we gave you to discover your good and bad ideas about yourself, and you will see in that list also comparisons between your ideas about others and how they relate to yourself. Because you see, basically how you feel about yourself is how you're going to look at others. You're going to try and find those qualities in others. That's what makes people get along, basically, you see. They find qualities in friends that they feel are close to their own, but within the same general arena, shall we say, of acceptability. Something you can tolerate. And life is all about toleration, by the way, my friends, in case you haven't found that out yet. It's about tolerating all the crap you create for yourself. It's about tolerating all the crap that everyone else seems to be creating for yourself also. But the real truth is that your life is your own intimate creation. You are the artist that paints the colors of your life. Only as an artist uses oils, you use the emotions and ideas and thoughts. These are your paints. And you paint them in the inner landscape. And then, through the miracle of creation, through the miracle of godliness, you manifest it outside of yourself. You see it in your world. Anyone here that doesn't understand what we just said? Well, either everyone does or nobody does. There was a good rule that has been said many times. But you know, it becomes like a rule that's been repeated so much that it's the repetition of the rule that seems to have the meaning and not what the words are that go into the rule. Treat others as you would have others treat yourself. It's easy to say, eh? Tougher to do? You know, most people don't realize the limitation they put on themselves when they don't allow themselves to treat others as they would themselves. Because you see, the others, in many ways, you know the only real person in the world? You know the only real person in the world is you? Everyone else is make-believe. Because your reality is the only one that matters. Anyone here disagree with that? Because that's the truth. But that is also a false belief. If you believe you are a man, you're in for trouble. In the same way, if you believe you are a woman, you are in for trouble. These are vehicles that you use for your expression. They are not you. Render unto the world that which is the world. Render unto the Spirit that which is of the Spirit, you see? Your world is really of the Spirit, of the self. And yet, because of the wonderful illusion, you believe that the world is where it's at. In opposition to the fact that you are creating it. Now, you might be willing to see that relationship, that you create reality, but you're not so willing to do something about the fact of how you're creating it. Doing something about changing the quality of your life, and in doing so, you will automatically change the quality of every single being that you come in contact with. Because your life will be a representation of the truth as you know it, to the best of your ability. As opposed to life being a statement of lies about the truth. A statement of beliefs about the truth. If you believe that you've got many lives in which to straighten out your problems, you've got the problem. You've got what? This is it. You see? Now there is reincarnation. That is a fact. And yourself is living many lives in space and time right now with various aspects of self. You are one of these. But you see, my friends, the difference between the reincarnation theory and other theories is that if you do not realize your potential in this lived lifetime, you, as whomever you are now, will never get the opportunity to do it again. Another portion of yourself will. You will only live one life as whom you are right now. Do you understand that? That's why you have no time. In spite of the fact that there is no time, time is an illusion that works in cooperation with space, one with the other. There was too much room in the karmic theories for one to pass off the responsibility of doing it in now. When, let us face it, no matter which lifetime you're going to choose to have the experience of your initiation to yourself is up to you. But you're in a position now where you can do something about it in this lifetime, my friends. Right here and right now. By realizing that you can indeed affect the world and change yourself to reflect the true loving being that you are. By releasing your judgments and limitations that you've placed on yourself. Not that others have put on you. Granted, there are limitations that you've accepted that were brought on you as you passed through the various stages of growing up in the world. But one cannot feel sorry for oneself because of that. But one can do something about that by looking at their life and seeing those areas through which are affected by those types of beliefs. If you are an individual who does not have money, and you want money in your life, you want security, then look for the security in yourself and see the lack of it. Because if you have a lack of security in yourself, do you think the outside world is going to show you security? It's going to show you what you believe. That is why some individuals in this world can run around and say, I'm having a great time. There's absolutely nothing wrong with my life. And you know what? That may be so for them. But when you hear that, the first thing that comes into your mind is all the reasons why you can't be that way. All the reasons. It's my job. I don't make enough money. It's not your job. It's my family. They drain all my time. They take everything from me and don't give anything back to me. That's a lie. It's my wife. She's out honky-tonking around. I can't keep my mind on business. No, my friend, you just forgot to keep your mind on your wife. See, we got some understanding individuals here. Can you get it now? And now with your puny little will, you're going to sit back and be bummed out about it. And they make your whole day upset. Oh, we can't go to the beach today. I planned my vacation to go to the beach today. And I'm going to be all upset about this. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. But you go ahead and you'll play the game anyway. You see? You see yourself doing it. You do it all the time. You do it everywhere. You do it with everyone. No one is sacred from that. But you see, if you were able to see that when you open your eyes in the morning,
that what you are going to see is your creation, then it's easier to flow with it. You see, my friends? As opposed to getting up with an idea in your mind what you want. You're always wanting. You know what I mean? You're always wanting something or other. It's like when you're praying to God, you know. How many people, when you pray to God, if you pray to God, do you pray to God to say, thank you, I'm having a wonderful time, and it's just wonderful. It's not like that at all. It's all about a course like this. Let me give you an idea. Dear Lord God, I cannot meet the mortgage. I'm trying hard. I am a good man. My wife, she works too, God. She works overtime too. But you know, really, is there anything you can do to help me get out of this situation that I'm in? And then when the real answer comes to you, it says, do something about it. Then you just harumph. That's all there is to it. You mean I have to do something for myself? It's not going to be done for me. Like your parents would do it for you. When was the last time your mother cut your meat up for you? So you could eat it. Life is a very liberating experience for those who choose to view it that way. What you do with your life is totally up to you. Now, you must see that what you believe about your circumstances, your relationships, your areas of security or lack of security, are all concepts that you've created for yourself, that you've accepted for yourself. And you can allow these items to change any time that you want to. Now, to free yourself from limitation doesn't mean that you're going to have a life free of limitation. What it means is that limitations will be recognized for what they are. Beliefs that you hold. But you see, certain beliefs will have varying degrees of force over you. You perhaps have noticed that yourself. That certain emotions are stronger than others. Certain ideas about reality are stronger than others. What a person believes about the basic worthlessness or worthfulness of life is going to be how they're going to express their life. So if you're an individual who doesn't feel worthy, then again, your life is going to reflect that unworthiness. If you're an individual who feels that their lack of money is due to their job, then you've got a belief problem. It has more to do with the poverty of the soul than it does with the bank account. The poor in spirit are simply those that need spirit, you see? They need more of it. The poor of money don't need more money. They need more spirit, more of themselves, because they are in poverty because they believe that there is a scarcity of money. Somewhere in their belief system, they have deemed themselves unworthy to receive the money they need. And this may be stemming back to a belief that they had created for themselves back when they were, say 10 to 11 years old. Because perhaps their father wasn't going to give them an allowance because they weren't being good enough. Do you remember when you used to have to do things to get things? Notice how that hasn't changed? Isn't it funny that, everybody running around, they have different ways of raising their children, but all the children basically, although the contents of the life is different, but basically all children, with some exception, are raised by parents. There are some who are not. But then they have a pseudo-parent, which will either be someone of an adoption or someone of working with your social systems, which can be disastrous for a child anyway, because the child is instantly going to take in a sense of unworthiness because his parents were not worthy enough to keep him, you see? So this is going to have an effect on the child. It's going to color his life. And there are many instances like this that occurred to you in your phases of experiencing reality as you grew into it, that you accepted. And now what happened is these beliefs you've accepted are beginning to pinch your life. They're coming at you from all kinds of different angles, and you can't seem to see the woods from the trees. And it always, always appears as though someone else is doing it to you. If you ever have that thought again after this night, you will know that it is not so. If you feel that way, then investigate your thoughts. Because that is not so. In spite of the fact that they're standing in front of you and appear to be doing it to you. In reality, your sense of feeling and expression is your responsibility. It is your creation. You can say that other people hurt you, but that's impossible. You hurt yourself. Now, in the case of physical violence, we've got a little difference here. Whereby, because you are physical beings and you are living in the land, or pardon me, in the reality of physical expression, and your bodies are made out of the same substance as the illusion itself, then you can have the feeling of contact, physical contact. So you can experience being attacked, so to speak, being beat upon, so to speak. But what you don't see is the subtle relationships that go on that cause you to bring this to you, that cause your experience to reflect your beliefs. Ones who have conquered their life are aware that their lives are not conquerable. Those who have control of their life have realized that they must give up control before they can get it. Because the nature is that if you're going to resist it, it's going to persist. So the only alternative is to allow it, to accept it. Now, this is not a willy-nilly acceptance we're referring to here, my friends. This is a deep, abiding understanding of the acceptance and realization that getting upset about your situations is not going to help you solve them. It's not going to give you the instant insight you're looking for. Being upset and angry is in and of itself a belief. People don't make you angry, you make yourself angry. But you have this belief that everyone else is doing it to you. The world does it to you. And you're just a victim of it all. What you are a victim of, my friends, is your own indifference. You're a victim of your own seemingly inability to discover ways to assist yourself. And you look outside yourself. And my friends, although we are glad and we love you for being here, can you see your connection with us? You're looking again outside of yourself, are you not? Granted, we have a position of awareness that is little different than yours. But on the same token, our love for you will not permit us to become an authority for you. Because we don't want you to fall into that trap again. You've already got enough authorities in your life. Look at them all. Your life is being run from every angle possible. And you wonder why your life doesn't work. And you wonder why you seem to be so pressed with it. Because you've accepted everything that's been put upon you. You believed it. But also, you've quite frankly failed to accept the responsibility for authorship in your own play. You are your own actors. You are your own director. You're your own prop man. You're your own screenwriter. You're the whole shooting match rolled up all into one. And yet the only role you seem to know how to play is victim. You forget about all the others that you have to play too. Now, if the present is the point of power from which an individual can change the quality of their life, then there must be ways in which an individual can do that, using the practical circumstances of their realities at any given point in their time. Now, if you're an individual who finds themselves in a relationship that is not working, you might realize that part of the reason it's not working is that both parties are trying to blame the other party for being the cause of it not working. This is one scenario. The other scenario is that one partner makes it work, the other one doesn't. It's the old victim routine. This doesn't work because you don't allow it to work. It's always the other party that doesn't allow it to work. When in truth, if a relationship doesn't work, it isn't because of one party. It's because of both parties. And usually it's because there's a lack of communication and a lack of responsibility to telling the truth in that relationship. So as a result, everyone lies not only to others, but to themselves. And in that process of lying to themselves, they don't see themselves doing it. Has anyone in here ever made up a lie? Can I ask you why? What were you protecting? Yourself? Were you protecting the other party because you want to shield them from the bad news? Well, you see, if you don't tell the truth, the one you hurt is yourself. Because what's going to happen is it's going to come back to you in your reality. When you told a lie about where you were one night, do you ever notice how it always comes up? You can't avoid it. It seems like, if you've got a bunch of buddies you're going out with, you tell them, now look, don't be sure you don't mention this to my wife. She doesn't like me going out and drinking the beer after work, so you can't mention it. So your friends and buddies come over, you sit down, you have a couple of beers, and what comes out? Hey, we have a great time the other night with Louis. And of course, you've got to sit there surprised. You've got to be surprised. What do you mean at Louis? I wasn't at Louis. Then you start giving the old eye, you know what I mean? Start giving him the crooked eye, the one that says if you say another word, I'm going to tear your throat out. You're really blowing it for me, man. What we're trying to do here, my friends, is to illustrate through looking at the practicality and the practical events of your life. That you see, if you can laugh at that, then you can see that it is so. And it is funny when adults don't recognize the truth. And yet, it is so sad. Because then they get the results of that. Using affirmations to discover who you are can be very beneficial. But affirmations themselves can become like a habit, you see, that you begin to use it, and your original impetus in using it was genuine. But as time goes on, and it actually begins to work, what usually happens is, in your mind, you'll say, well, it's worked, now what do we do? So you take your success and you put it aside in favor of where you were. Because, believe it or not, my friends, you enjoy being stuck where you are, or you wouldn't be there. I know it's an awful thing to say, but it is the truth. To liberate yourself from that, you must begin to discover what are your beliefs about yourself and about relationships that you have with everything. And these beliefs can be seen through the process of that list, but also through the use of using your mind to direct, shall we say, redirect its focus of attention from that of an outside world to that inside, where truly all the action is, where the blueprints are laid, so to speak. If you could see the blueprints to a plan, then you could make the changes before the plan actually happened in reality, could you not? But if you're not looking at your plans, and you build, and you get halfway up, and an inspector comes along, you see the inspector is your ego. And it says, that ain't going to work. Tear it down. You stop. You tear it down. Because you believe it. You believe your ego. You believe what you're telling yourself about yourself. You believe what you see in physical reality to be a fact. To a degree it is. But to a larger overview of it, it is not. Because it is a creation of the mind. It is whereby a creation that is witnessed through the auspices of the mind, as the information is fed to it from the senses. So it behooves you that as you are living in your reality, even as you sit here now, and thoughts are going through your mind about your beliefs, that you might write them down and commit them to paper, because in a way, my friends, you are actually doing something in the physical about it. You are actually saying that my affirmation is that I'm going to discover what beliefs I have are causing limitation in my life. Then you're going to write them down. And in writing them down, you are actually doing something in the physical to manifest what you're thinking. Do you follow? In other words, you've got to do something about it other than think about it. You spent a lot of time thinking about it. Now it's time to do something about it. So again, you've got your two lists. Now, as the core beliefs begin to surface, and they will surface, and you will know them for what they are by looking at your list, that you can again create another list of your basic beliefs. And then these can be worked with. From the point of view, let us say that you have a basic belief that all children are a big pain. Then you want to find out, why do I believe that? Why do I believe all children are a big pain? And you ask yourself that question. And you're going to get some answers to it, exactly what you asked. You should write them down underneath that belief. You'll start to see the subsidiary beliefs that are falling in line with that major belief. Then after you've looked at the whole thing, then you can realize why your life is that way along those lines. Now you're at the point of decision. Now you're at the point of choosing, and you have the choice of accepting that and allowing it to disappear in your life, or resisting it and allowing it to continue. If you want to love, if you want to receive love, then the natural law is to give love. If you cannot give it, then you cannot receive it. And if your life tells you that there's not a lot of love in it, that means you haven't been putting a lot of love in it, you see? You haven't been giving it to it so it can give it back to you. Should have realized by now that it's a very give and take reality, you understand? That's what you put into it. If you put effort into something, then it's going to give you something back. It may not be what you want, but it's going to give it back to you. If you believe that you can lose your life, then you believe falsely. You believe that life is something that comes and goes, as opposed to being something that is a piece of something that always was. From nothing, all things came to be. But that nothing was all that is. And as it, shall we say, separated portions of its being to form you, to say that that life would end would be the same as to say that all that is would end the portion of itself. That will not be. Understanding the basic nature of why you're here and the feelings of separation that you feel and manifest in your world, both in your family relationships, in your relationships with others, in seeing yourself as separate. Well, my friends, you see, these are all stemming from basic concepts, basic guilts that the self is aware of. Your story of Adam and Eve was nothing more than a story of consciousness. In that consciousness looked away from all that is into the material world, and thus felt the separation from self, from all that is, to participate and bite of the apple, the tree of knowledge, the ego, to live in the belief of separation from the one, all that is. It is a belief that is manifested in reality, whose time is wearing out. This is what is meant by the second coming. The second coming is of Jesus, but it is also of you. You are the second coming, my friends. You're it. Might be a little heavy to bear, but that's the truth. Original sin, for instance, as it would be reported in the biblical text, is nothing more than the reflection of consciousness as it chose to direct its focus of attention outside itself. So it feels the sense of separation and the longing to come back to all that is, to end the illusion and to be again one with all. But before that can take place, the individual will overcome the barriers of self before this can transpire. So my friends, a willingness to affirm those beliefs that work for you in your reality, if you apply yourself, meaning that you not only think the process out, that you not only just go through your life without looking at what you're doing, without examining what you're thinking, without seeing yourself set yourself up, that you can eventually come to the realization that your life can be anything, literally, that you want it to be. But your fear about looking at yourself and your judgment about the quality of answer that you receive will be your major stumbling block. So be willing to take a look at yourself with unprejudiced eyes, meaning don't protect yourself from yourself. Don't be afraid of your unconsciousness. It's not going to hurt you. Don't be afraid to examine your beliefs, because as you examine them, those that are valid will remain. Those that are based on falsity, on untruth, shall fall aside. They shall disappear. Not through resistance, but through an acceptance of the other beliefs that you have about yourself. Remember, you're not going to resist it. First of all, you receive it and acknowledge it for what it is. And remember that you have thoughts. You are not your thoughts. So no matter what you think of yourself, no matter how bad you are, you can realize these are thoughts about yourself and they are not you. Unless you choose them. You understand? Yeah. Now at this point, we'd like to take a short break, and then we will come back and answer your questions. Thank you.